Hello, and welcome to TrackVia's Turning Ideas into Apps, our low-code demo. My name is Michelle Martz Mayfield, and I am the PR and Corporate Communications Manager for TrackVia. And we're going to start you off with a few little housekeeping details before we get started. You have been entered in on listen-only mode. Please keep your microphones muted so that everyone can hear. If you do have questions, please submit them in the chat window, and we will follow up with those live if we can, and if not, in a later email. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send you a follow-up email within 48 hours with the recording. I think that's it for now. I will hand this over to Brandon Gill, who is your presenter today, and he will get you started. Thank you, Brandon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thanks to everyone who's in attendance today. As Michelle mentioned, my name is Brandon Gill. I'm a senior solutions consultant here at TrackVia. And today in the webinar, what we're going to be covering is a couple of different topics. One is just who is TrackVia. If you're attending this webinar, you may not be familiar with who we are or what we do. What is low code, which is the space of software that TrackVia is categorized as. We're going to cover a little bit about that. Who can use low code? And then the majority of the webinar is going to be spent going through how to create a simple app. We're going to go through a demonstration of a common use case we hear, show you some of the tools and tricks of low code and specifically of TrackVia. So who is TrackVia? Well, we are a software company that was founded in 2006. We're headquartered in Denver, Colorado. Got about 75 employees, most of who are in Denver as well. And we have over 350 customers. And I've highlighted a couple of these customers here on this slide, the North Face, KSI, Stearns. And I do this not just to show off that we have a variety of customers, but more to show off that each of these customers does something unique with TrackVia and unique with low code. And that's really kind of the theme of low code and what you'll see as we go through this. So really quickly, the North Face uses us in their order fulfillment process. So if a custom order comes in and they need to source the materials, source the colors for someone like a Dick's Sporting Goods maybe, that whole process is run on TrackVia where it was previously run on spreadsheets, and they save a lot of efficiencies that way. KSI is an oil field operator. They use us for many different field service operations, from safety checklists to inventory to asset tracking. Stearns Home Loans is a major home loan originator. They use us for many back office processes. They've got, I think, over 15 apps and over 1,000 users. Honeywell uses us for some procurement processes. The Sands Las Vegas uses us for anti-money laundering processes. And Deep Roots Harvest is actually one of our cannabis customers out of Nevada, and they use us to run pretty much their entire operation, from the cultivation of their plants to the processing of their plants, through sales, through shipping and fulfillment. And again, I emphasize this not to say we have a lot of customers, but just to say the flexibility that you'll see with a system like low code is pretty vast. And hopefully you'll get that out of the demo. So if you're thinking about use cases of where you might use TrackVia or how you might utilize low code, definitely keep an open mind, even if today's demo isn't exactly where it might be useful for your company. So what is low code? You've heard me use the word a couple of times. Maybe you've heard it on LinkedIn or heard it around some analyst reports. If you look up what is low code software, this is the generic answer you're going to get. It's software that provides a development environment used to create applications through graphical user interfaces and configuration instead of traditional hand-coded computer programming. That's a little bit of a dry definition for my taste. What I think of for low code is it is a software package that allows you to build out different workflows and applications in an easy drag and drop manner. And as a result of that, low code spans a really big variety of software tools. And if you look at the analyst reports, your Forrester reports, or Gartner reports, things like that, they even look at low code in a very broad way. And they're starting to chunk that up a little bit as low code becomes more mainstream. Now, as I mentioned, TrackVia has been around since 2006, so we're actually kind of a pioneer in the low code space. There's been a lot of new players to the market and a lot of traditional software systems that have developed low code or purchased a low code tool. But when we look at kind of the breadth of low code, this is a nice figure that I like to use. On the left side, we look at lightweight tools like Excel and Access Database. These are technically low code tools. You can do a lot of things in Excel and Access. You can build forms, build reports, do a lot of things without ever needing to code in one of those systems. However, as I think we've all experienced with Excel and Access, they don't scale very well. Eventually, you kind of need something bigger, need something a little more robust. So on the right-hand side, you've got your more developer toolkits, the very robust tools. The problem here is while these are low code, you do still need to know how to program to use systems like OutSystems and Appian. They have a kind of interface that allows it to give you a space to play in, but you do still need to know how to write code. With TrackVia and a couple of other companies, we really fit what I consider to be true low code. That is, you can build very robust applications, very scalable applications, and we do offer some components within the system that will allow you to code. And that coding is usually done for more advanced features within TrackVia. A lot of our customers don't necessarily need that extra features, don't need that coding piece, but it is available for them if they want to do some more advanced things. But most of the stuff and everything that we're going to look at today is just done through dragging and dropping. And we'll get into the admin side and show you a little bit of what that looks like. Who is low code for? The bottom line is low code is for everyone. So many of our customers and many of our admins at TrackVia are business users. They're people that know the processes really well, and they know how to build the process out in a system like TrackVia. They know how it works in their mind. They see it happen every day. So it's very easy for them to pick up a tool like TrackVia and build out that workflow, build out that process. It can also be utilized by IT professionals, though. Whether you've got a really robust IT staff in your organization or maybe a smaller IT staff, you can utilize low code and utilize a tool like TrackVia as a system to build these applications very quickly and get these things stood up and get your business users on their way. Excuse me. Now we're going to jump into a demonstration here. And for this demonstration, what I'm going to be going through is what we call a facilities audit example. And I use this demonstration because it can be applied to a lot of different workflows in your organization. It could be applied to safety checklists, incident reporting. There's a lot of health checklists that are going on, especially if you're in a hospitality space or anything where people are going in and out of your offices, especially in the current climate that we're in. So with this particular example, what we're going to do is we're going to start as an inspector. And that inspector is going to complete a mobile inspection of one of our facilities. At TrackVia, we do have a native mobile application, so we'll take a look at that. That inspector is then going to assign some tasks to the facility owner to follow up on. Maybe we had a maintenance report that was wrong, or a fire extinguisher that was expired, whatever the case may be there. Next, that manager, the person that managed that facility, will be alerted through an email notification to follow up on these tasks. They'll go ahead and complete these tasks within TrackVia, and because it's all happening within the same system, the inspector can then review that task and approve that it's up to their satisfaction there. All the while, we've got a role that's kind of a portfolio director role who's looking over all of our facilities where they can see all of real-time analytics across the portfolio, dig into any of those, and we'll show you a little bit about how that works as well. So let's go ahead and jump in here. I'm gonna switch over to this tab where we will see TrackVia, and specifically we will see this facilities audit application. Now I wanna start by giving you all a little orientation to the screen just so we all know what we're looking at. Top left-hand corner here, we've got our TrackVia logo. This really serves as a home button for our main dashboard on any application. This can be custom branded, so if you were to become a TrackVia customer, this might not say TrackVia, it might have your logo up there. So it really looks and feels like it is your own system. Similarly to the URL up here, this would be custom branded as well. Next to that, you'll see we're in this application called Facilities Audit. But what I always like to do for folks is hit this drop down here just to show you all the different applications I have in this particular demonstration account. So things like asset tracking, deal flow tracking, inventory tracking, invoice approvals, production management, quality control, all of these different applications are being built in TrackVia using the tools that we're going to look at today. So when I talk about customers having a wide variety of different use cases, some using us throughout their entire business, some using us for very specific use cases, there are a lot of things that TrackVia can be applied to in your organization or in any organization, really. Below that, I'm currently logged in as an admin, so I have access to this admin toolbar. This is where we do the building in TrackVia, and a little bit later on, I'll show you how we do some basic admin things within TrackVia, show you how low code really works. Below that, you'll see that I've got 3 different dashboards in this particular application. So our auditor role that we talked about is kind of our inspector role as well. the manager role who's going to look over the actual facilities, and then that portfolio director who can see all the facilities and the analytics associated with them. And on each dashboard, you're going to see a series of elements. The dashboards are really designed to give each user an experience that's unique to their job so that they can really focus on the data and focus on the things that are important to them. So you'll see some different elements like shortcut buttons, grid type views with some conditional formatting, map type views, and we'll go through some other ones as we go along. Now, to kick off this demonstration, what I'm going to do is, as an auditor or an inspector, I'm going to kick off a facilities audit, and I'm going to do so from a mobile device. So what I've done is I've pulled over a screen that's showcasing an iPad that I've got sitting on my desk in front of me. You'll notice that all of the buttons that we see on the iPad are the same as the buttons that we see on the web, and they work the exact same as well. So if I click into this map of inspections, it's going to render a map that looks very similar to this map of inspections down here. That's because, as I mentioned, we have a native mobile application at TrackVia. It's not a responsive website or anything like that. If I hit this home button, you're going to see the TrackVia logo right there on the app, and I click into that to go into the application. You can download this in the iOS store or the Google Play Store. And the advantages of a native mobile app are that, one, it looks the exact same as the web. So the adoption becomes much easier if you have mobile use cases. Anything that you build on the web is automatically going to be available on mobile. So there's no separate code base to manage or anything like that. And we get to take advantage of the actual device's capabilities. So barcode scanning, photo capture, location capture, all fair game when we're collecting data on mobile. We also feature an offline mobile option at TrackVia. So if you're in the field or you're somewhere that doesn't have good internet connection, you can still work, still collect the data, and when you get connected back to the internet, it all syncs up. So let's go ahead and kick off this facilities audit. I'm going to hit that button that says to conduct a facilities audit. And it's going to take me to a custom form that's going to ask me a couple of questions. First being, what facility are we looking at? I've got a long list of facilities here. I'm just going to search for a facility I like to use, which is Lee's Summit in this case, facility number 44. The audit date and time I currently have defaulted to today's date and time in Mountain Time. We can set up different form rules to really make it easy on the end users to fill this stuff out, stuff like defaulting dates and times, making required fields, things like that. And we'll say who is the auditor today. I'm going to say that it's Ian Inspector. We might usually default that field as well, but in my case, I keep it loose for demonstration purposes. What's the audit type? We'll say this is just a monthly visit. And what's the audit location? It's tagging the location of the device. And I live here in Broomfield, Colorado, so it's tagging the device to my location. So you can actually make sure that the device is at the place that we want to audit. Okay, let's go ahead and hit next on that. And when we do so, we're going to be taken to the next form where we'll actually complete our audit. So we've got all the information of our audit filled out. And now we have some questions that I've put in here. Now, all these fields are very flexible in TrackVia, so we can add fields, take away fields. We'll take a look at some of that a little bit later on. But certainly, if you have a similar use case, we don't have to ask these exact questions in this way. But let's go through these quickly here. So are the working areas clean and hazard-free? Maybe we'll say those are great. The fire extinguishers charged, maybe that's great. Materials and supplies properly stored, sure. And then for this one, are the machines in safe operating condition? There's a form rule set up here, and I'm actually going to say this is below average. When I do so, I'm prompted to put some comments in place here and grab a photo. I'm going to leave the comments blank for now because they're just a text field, but I will grab a photo here. And I'm just going to take a photo of my water bottle that's sitting in front of me. We might call out the machines in this way, call out boxes that are sitting around. This can also be great for quality control use cases as well. And we can attach that image directly into the record. Additionally, we can draw on these images if we want to call out anything in particular and make it more pronounced in that image. Let's go ahead and hit next on that. And in doing this, it'll take me to the final form of this workflow where we can see all the information that I filled in. And then down below, I've got a final scorecard here. Now, this scorecard in my case is just looking at a calculated field that I've set up in TrackVia that puts some weight to those questions that we asked. You can do scorecarding in a lot of different ways. You can keep it easy, you can keep it complicated. Really, any calculation you can do in Excel, you can also do in TrackVia. So there's just a weighted average that's happening here. And I'll go ahead and sign off as the inspector. So we do offer signing capabilities, but we do also have a full audit history within TrackVia. So you can always see who did what, when, and where within the system. And then we'll be asked, do we want to add an action plan task? And in my case, I'm going to say yes, and we'll go ahead and add that action plan task. When I do that, it's going to take me to a separate form, and this is still the continuation of this workflow. So it's just walking the user through this. And it's going to say this action plan task is assigned to this audit here. We're going to assign this out to one of our managers. In my case, I'm going to assign it out to Mike Manager. So if I look for Mike there, I'll put him in there. It's assigned on today, and maybe I'll give Mike a couple of days to complete this. The task to complete is the machine maintenance. The area to improve is our equipment maintenance. Task is defaulted to not started. I can leave comments here like, please be careful. And then do I want to add another task? In my case, I'll say no, and we will complete this audit. So we just walked a user through a full workflow on TrackVia using those custom forms there on a mobile device. And now if I pull this mobile device back over to my other screen and I refresh the screen we're looking at, everything updates in real time in TrackVia. So there we will see the audit that we just did here. You'll see that there's some conditional formatting happening here. Basically what's happening is anything that scores below a 75 comes across in red. That means it was a really bad audit, and it's something we definitely need to keep an eye on. But now what we're going to do is we're going to move over from the facility audit / inspector role over to that regional manager role where we assigned Mike a task. And you'll see right there, we assigned this task to Mike, task 210. And on Mike's dashboard, you'll see that it looks different than the inspector dashboard. We've got a chart here that showcases the facilities that Mike manages and the average score of those facilities, a map view that showcases those facilities, and a calendar view that showcases the things that Mike needs to complete. Additionally, another thing that happened on my other screen, if I pull this over, is you're going to see that I got an email notification. And I got this email notification 1 minute ago that gives me the details of the maintenance that I need to perform and the things that I need to do. So this is coming out of TrackVia. So if you need to alert anyone, we can do easy email notifications, and you get to set up the rules around those notifications so you know that they're important when they're coming out of TrackVia. This button here is also a live button that would take me directly into the record. And if I was on a mobile device, it would open my mobile device for me and open the app. So now that I've seen that, I can come in here as Mike Manager. I can see the task down here on my task board, task 210, and I can move this from the not started queue to the in progress queue. That might alert the inspector that I am in fact doing something, so you can have constant alerts going through here and see the statuses of things as they move along between departments and between people. If I click into this now, I can see the form that the inspector was working with, and I can start to fill in the rest of the form here. So what I might do is just say this is going to go from in progress to ready to approve, and maybe I just say checked maintenance all fixed. Now this is a pretty straightforward example of how you might do this, and maybe we'll just grab a quick photo off my desktop to include here. We can attach photos, PDFs, lots of different attachments into TrackVia. Now you might have a more robust way of saying that this was complete. Again, these forms are very flexible, but I just keep it pretty loose and just say we did it correctly for the purposes of the demonstration. We'll hit save on that, and when I do so, if I go back out to the dashboard, we'll see that that card has gone from in progress over to ready to approve because we did complete that task. And now if I were to go back to the role of the auditor or the inspector, down here you can see the task approval required, and here's that one that Mike just completed. I can see all the details to it. I can see how long it took Mike to complete it, and in our case, it wasn't very long. Then I can go ahead and say, yes, I approve it as the inspector. That meets my criteria, and it will fall out of that queue that I was working in. So setting up working queues and working through different tasks, very easy to do within TrackVia. Now we've got about 10 minutes left here, and I do want to make sure we leave some time for questions, but I also want to focus on two final things. One being reporting within TrackVia. This is a dashboard that I've got set up that just showcases a few different reports you can run in TrackVia. So we're looking at monthly trends of audit performances. We can see all of the facilities broken down by region with some conditional formatting. And you can just see some different examples of how we are able to chart things within TrackVia. What I tell people is if you can track it in TrackVia, you can chart it in TrackVia. I'm also going to zoom in on one of our facilities, and I know that right here is Lee's Summit, and all of the charts and all the things we see in TrackVia are fully drillable. So I can actually click into this, and I can get a full rundown of Lee's Summit, who the manager is, the phone number of that manager, where it's located, a trend of the monthly performances at Lee's Summit, all of the inspections I've run at Lee's Summit, and we can continue to drill down and see what inspections have I run in October. And in this case, it'll just be the one that we ran today, and go all the way down to that actual inspection that we completed. I can see the tasks there. So it's very easy to track things and report on things within TrackVia. And because it's all within one system where we're doing the workflow, we're doing the tracking, and we're doing the reporting, it all updates in real time for us. Now, over the next couple of minutes, I want to get into the admin side of things and show you how easy it is to do some building within low code, and then we'll answer a couple of questions here as we wrap up at about 11:30 my time. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just make a simple change to the system so you can see how easy it is to work it. And I'm going to start by doing that with a table. Now, underlying any TrackVia application is a relational database. So in this case, this database is made up of these 4 tables where we collect information. I'm going to go to this audits table in my case, and we'll edit it. This takes us to what we call our table editor here within TrackVia. Now, on the left-hand side of the screen, what we get are all of our different field types. So text fields and number fields we're typically going to type into, our drop-downs and checkboxes. I really like because it keeps our data nice and clean. It gives the user an option of what to select instead of just typing in anything. We've looked at some date and time fields. These specialty fields like links and images and emails can be useful. We've seen location fields. And then these calculated fields, as I mentioned, run pretty much like any calculation you might think to do in Excel. In the middle here is all of the raw data that's being collected on this particular table. So we might not expose all of this data to the end user. If I scroll down here, you'll see we've got a couple of calculated fields that maybe we just don't care for the end users to see. But in its most raw form, this is the information being collected on this table. And if I want to add a piece of information to this table so we can start to collect a new piece of information, or maybe our business has changed, or maybe from a regulatory perspective, we have to collect a new piece, all I have to do is say, what field type do I want? And I'm going to take a drop-down list, drag it, and drop it in place there. And I can give it a name. Let's call it maybe audit priority, and some choices, high, medium, and low, and hit save. And that's really all it takes to make a change in TrackVia, to add a field to a table in TrackVia. There's no coding required. You don't have to be a programmer to do it. But if you can just think about what things need to be collected, it's very easy to make that adjustment. Now what we'll want to do is actually take this field and put it onto a form so we can start to collect information on it. So I'm going to go up to my Forms tab here, and forms are broken down by tables. So if I go to my audits table and we click this Start Facilities Audit form, this is the form that we saw on the mobile device when we were first kicking off our facilities audit. And on the left-hand side of our form editor, all the fields we can use, and the right-hand side is how they get laid out. You'll see that there's that audit priority. So I'm just going to pick it up and drop it in there. I can move it up above. I can make it a little bit bigger. And I can even adjust the field type. Maybe I want to make this a required field. You have to tell me what the priority is. And maybe I'll put a little spacer in here so it looks nicer. And I'll even change the color of this here from a orange to maybe more of like a red. Hit save on that. So very easy to lay out how we want the form to look and what we want to be on that form. And when I hit save there, because everything's going to update in real time, if I jump back out to our dashboard, and I pull back over our mobile device, once I go ahead and conduct a new facilities audit, we're going to see all those changes will render automatically. So the form is now red, and there's our audit type. And if I scroll down here, here's our audit priority, which is a required field. So I actually cannot move forward without filling that in. So very easy to make changes. That's a pretty simplistic change in TrackVia, but really the idea of low code is that any changes you want to make to your workflow, or any workflow you want to build across any operation, is very easy to do. At this time, I'm going to kind of get out of demonstration mode here and answer a couple of questions in the 5 minutes or so that we have left. Before I do that, I do want to go over one final slide here. Just some final notes, things that we've largely already covered, but just to reiterate, there's an email that's going to be going out to everyone that attended and anyone who registered with a recording of this webinar, and we'll make sure that we get that sent out to you within 48 hours. We really appreciate any feedback on these webinars. We do these webinars monthly just to expose different people to low code, whether you're a TrackVia customer or a TrackVia prospect or someone who just wants to learn more about a new software system. So I'd really appreciate it if you take a couple minutes to fill in that survey. Let me know what we can do better. And if you want any more immediate information, if you want to see a more personalized demonstration, if there's any questions that we don't get to today, I've included my email here. It's brandon.gill@trackvia.com. Feel free to shoot me an email, and if I can't answer your question, I'll make sure we get to someone who can. I want to say thank you again to everyone who attended, and we do have a couple of questions in the question box, so I will address a couple of those now. One of the questions that we got says, what are the integrations options within TrackVia? Can I integrate this into my accounting system? This is a great question. It's a question that we get quite a bit at TrackVia because I think for a lot of folks, TrackVia is a system that they could use to replace a lot of systems. It's a system they could use to run many of their operations. And sometimes it's a system that folks use to kind of fill gaps in their current systems. Maybe you have a robust accounting system or a robust HR system, but you just need some of those intermediate workflows filled, and TrackVia can be used for that as well. And the short answer to the integration question is we really have two options for integrations. One being that we have an open and bidirectional API. It's fully documented at developer.trackvia.com. Very easy to access all the information on that. And that allows us to push data out of TrackVia and pull data into TrackVia from any system. And it's very easy to access. We also have another option that's our TrackVia integrations platform. This is a platform that has over 350 different connectors that are pre-built to common systems like Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, Workday, kind of your major enterprise systems. And that allows you to build integrations between those systems and TrackVia without needing to know how to code. So it kind of goes along our path of low code as a methodology. You can just drag and drop these connectors in place and very easily integrate within TrackVia. Another question I got was for the mobile applications, do you charge additional to utilize your mobile? And the simple answer there is no, we do not. So mobile is included. You could actually go right now and download the TrackVia application in the App Store if you wanted to. Many of you, if you're not customers, probably do not have access to an account, so you might not be able to do too much with it, but mobile does come included when you become a TrackVia customer. It's very easy to use, very easy to set up, and it's available both on iOS and Android devices. One final question I got here is what types of coding languages do you support within TrackVia for the low code piece? So with our low code options, what we call those are application scripts within TrackVia. So everything that I showed you today, there was no coding required to set any of that up. But for some more advanced features, we do have what we call application scripts, which is where you can do things like automatically creating records based on previous selections and some more advanced functionality. That is written in a language that's called Groovy, and you can do that on the individual tables. So you do have some options to do some more advanced features. You can get very robust with that type of stuff, and the application scripts with what you can do in TrackVia, it really can enhance the experience. But I'd say about 95% of our customers don't actually utilize application scripts. And it's not because they don't need to or they don't know how, it's just because their workflow is such that they don't need the additional coding. They're able to do all of it in a low code environment. And that's because most of our admins are not programmers. They're business users that just know their workflow very well, and they're able to build it out within TrackVia. We are at about the 11:30 mark now. There's a couple more questions, but we'll make sure to answer those via email after the webinar. But I do want to once again thank everybody for their time today. Hopefully this was helpful, and if you can provide some feedback, we would certainly appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.